All right, hello Internet. Welcome to Amnesia: The Dark Descent. We've been wanting to cover this one for a couple of years.
It's really heavily requested. Isn't this a quite
It's
popular game?
very heavily requested. People really want to see that. So this was developed by Frictional Games, 2010. Very highly successful, revolutionized the genre. Some people refer to it as like the scariest game ever.
Yeah, I've heard it's a really good spin on horror games. Now, I'm not quite fully attuned to it, so you're going to need to lead me through this, Matt.
Yeah, so Frictional did a really interesting thing here, and then they took away combat from horror and instead replaced it with platforming.
That's an interesting choice. So you just jump around all the threats instead?
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of intro here to set us up.
Sure.
You know, we got some Amnesia.
My name is Daniel.
Oh, well, I wouldn't have expected that.
Also, this is a rare case where Amnesia is actually a good way to deliver exposition.
Don't forget.
It allows people to explain and project upon the amnesiac person, making them a blank slate, or tabula rasa, as it's known. Really high art to begin with.
Daniel.
So I see we have some throwing mechanics. That ever come up?
We do have throwing mechanics. We do have grabbing mechanics. Those are going to be highly important and multiple times during this run.
Oh, good to know. I see you're choosing to step away from the traditional face cam alongside.
Yeah. I mean, too many people did that. You want to see face cam? You go watch Pewds.
Now,
Well, maybe don't watch Pewds.
Maybe don't. How do the mechanics change when you take away the face cam?
Well, first off, I mean, you have that extra like 25% of the screen,
Sure.
which I find that highly valuable. Makes it way easier to see this game. You notice it's very dark.
Yes, I noticed that. Is that going to improve at any point?
Occasionally, darkness is a really big thing here. Also, you notice I'm standing there at the door because as the instructions say, you have to click and then drag to open and close stuff. Which my first playthrough I didn't know. I was just clicking on doors and like, why isn't anything opening?
Well, I suppose that's to give some weight to your motions so you can understand as you're plunging further into the depths of your soul. Once again, we're experiencing a sort of blank slate situation.
It's definitely for immersion, and definitely also it's, you know,
some deep symbolism already. So I figure this is a long walk to distance ourselves from everything that we might have once been previous, similar to the intro to Silent Hill 2, a legendary game of its own right. But let's not compare that too far.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're looking for Mary here.
No, we're doing a much different revolutionary horror experience.
I think we're searching for ourselves.
Really, isn't that what we're all searching for?
In so many ways. That's a good introduction to the sanity mechanic.
Yeah, I see that.
We did see a spooky thing that made us a lot less healthy. Now this is our first major platforming challenge here. You see the castle has many hidden passageways in it.
Yeah, I see the difficulty there. That to execute,
he's got to hit the right button.
Yeah, you're gonna have to climb up on top of those rocks, which an inexpert player might not really understand. It's a bit poorly signposted, I would think.
Yeah. I don't know why they opened that door either. Like, it drew a lot of attention to it.
But now we can see from above and see clearly what is laid before us, but distance ourselves from it, further enforcing this sense of leaving what we had behind. Really executing that quite well.
Yeah, it's a like I said, this is a revolutionary thing. We are literally thinking outside the box here.
Yeah, it's very appreciable.
Get a little poetry on loading screens there. Now here, I do disagree with this option. I don't know why. I don't know why we have to climb this really broken staircase, but it does give us a good introduction to the platforming mechanics here.
Well, see, I mean, it seems pretty obvious that the broken staircase symbolize the problem that he's having with overcoming what he was, and the fact that he cannot remember to begin with.
Oh yeah, he can't ascend until he rebuilds that staircase.
Or at least is prepared to leave what it was behind. One of the two.
Yeah, the amnesia works both ways. It's a clean slate, like you're saying.
Exactly.
And I do appreciate the vastness of this environment.
Definitely. The dark colors create this sort of strident atmosphere with when we see the warmth everywhere else, when on the path here. Again, that we left behind.
Yeah, it's a good contrast for the occasional light that does come in through the outer windows, which is few and far between. Now, as stated before, you know, there's a lot of blocked areas here. We gotta get through some hidden passages, and occasionally the castle has traps like that one.
Yeah, I could see that ended up harming you.
Yeah, you gotta watch out. There's spring-loaded areas everywhere.
Really, though, I wish they had given more warning as to that. This game, as deep as it seems to be already, doesn't really seem to warn you of the dangers inside.
Well, see, this is the thing. It was a little hit to give you a warning as a player that there's hazards all around the castle.
Right, just so it's preparing you for further situations such as that.
Yeah, it gives you... So this is the time when you learn that you could just be launched like 20 feet up in the air.
Oh, of course. Now, is it just the rocks that are spring-loaded, or are there anything else? Is there further traps, just spikes and the like, or is it just appearing to be the situations around you and the paths that you take to progress through this
it has
process?
to be... It is the paths that you take and the situations you put yourself into, because ultimately these are just a metaphor for hubris.
Of course. And now we are going into the light, as I'm certain that many of us are wont to do. Which,
yeah, we
of
have
course,
to seek...
Which is the clear hint for the next secret passage, correct?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we have to advance towards the light. We have to walk into the light. But occasionally you have to wander around. This period is not, you know, like all periods. Entering the light, it's a long phase here to take the road out of darkness.
Well, of course, we first must face the shadow, which is only cast in such light.
Yeah, and as we see here, in order to recover ourselves, we must step into the void.
Certainly. Which, where else could we find our true self but in there? The dark place from which we all came. So eloquent. It's really well put together.
Yeah, there's actually going to be a whole, like, monologue here on the light and the darkness.
Oh, excellent. Let's listen in.
It sure is dark in here.
Yes, and there's a good reason for it. But you can light the lamp now if you wish.
What's the reason? For the darkness, that is.
Stay close. Be careful not to stray.
What's the reason? Why is it so dark?
Pay attention, Daniel. It's important that you keep going straight and make sure not to stray.
So I'm taking the advice from the other guy in the flashback there, staying close and not straying from my path.
Of course. And I can
Valuable life advice.
I heard him mention the idea of a lamp, which, of course, our main character finds difficulty in struggling to find the light within himself. He had to search elsewhere for it to even reach this point. Such an interesting dichotomy there.
Again, more traps. There are some spike traps around here.
Ah, of course. That can get in the way sometimes.
And yeah, this character he is struggling with light. It would be nice if he had some way to light his path.
A driving force of sorts, an internal lamp, as you will. But alas, he seems to be lacking one.
Yeah, it is rather strange. Seems like it would have been an interesting mechanic to add to the game there.
Could have definitely added a lot more to the scenery around here, but what can you do? They had a clear vision.
Maybe it was too overpowered to
it.
just keep things.
Yeah,
maybe
of course,
it was too
that makes
overpowered to
sense.
just keep things lit all the time.
And it would ruin the atmosphere. Really, they're definitely trying to portray the internal darkness as the external darkness at the same time. What little color you can see tinged thoroughly with it.
And just as here, this is a good metaphor for ascension, as we have to climb the remnants of our filth.
Well, see, he is struggling his uphill climb to progress forward. Just like Sisyphus, you know, continuing to roll the stone up the hill until it eventually comes crashing down, and he repeats the process again and again, attempting to overcome the self.
And you know, just as the process of going to the light involves muddling around a lot in shadows, climbing up the hill, it's, yeah, as you were saying, like Sisyphus. You get rolled back down, and you just have to keep rolling up again, hoping that eventually you will get out.
But when do we overcome? That is the question. When can one truly be free of the world's fetters?
It is a valuable question to ask, one that cannot easily be answered.
It does seem with enough endeavors, though, one can progress beyond. However, it seems they're still trapped back there, maybe as continued symbolism, as showing that even once you are above such, you are not free from all pain.
Well, there is no progress that is made without pain.
Oh, of course. Just as we did, he crashed through the surface, figuring out further the sake of the world.
I do have to say this section is actually very well constructed.
Oh, please tell me about it.
I guess just a little bit behind the scenes here. There's these water monsters here. As I said before, the game is designed. The game is designed around the idea that you are running from things and not fighting all the time.
Yes.
Or not fighting anything. And so as a result, you might die, and the game doesn't want to slow down the horror by having you just keep redoing the same section multiple times.
Of course, that just grow tiresome and weary.
If you do this and die the first time, or actually die 2 times, these monsters don't actually show up.
Well, as they were an illusion the entire time.
Of course. I mean, as this whole place is. As you saw, he walked in and there was no water here.
Of course.
And ostensibly probably no just random human body parts to throw around.
Well, again, he's discarding pieces of himself, leaving everything behind so he can truly ascend. This is the path to enlightenment, after all.
It is the path to enlightenment, and as such we must again muddle around in darkness. And but this is in fact the darkest point of his life, as he can only escape this harm by imbuing himself with a needle.
Unfortunately, however, things had to get worse before they could get better. Ah, the beast of addiction. Unfortunate.
It is. He was pulled under the surface by such a beast. And as such, this next section does illustrate very well the succumbing to addiction only gives temporary relief, as now he's challenged by his external problems tenfold. This monster is in fact chasing him, breaking down the door. So again, he must find a way to rise above all his problems.
Exactly, giving an urgency to trying to figure out from it, as he is so lost in this labyrinth. But with enough effort, he finds himself able to rise above it. Truly extraordinary storytelling. They did some excellent work with this.
Really, truly breathtaking. I don't understand the urgency they keep putting in here, though, as we aren't free from all threats.
Well, it's for us to continue feeling that sense that at any time we return back, the addiction would be there right waiting for us.
Alright, of course. Even though we have risen above the addiction, it is still there, following us.
Certainly. Like they say, when you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, you are never not an alcoholic anymore. You are just simply in recovery.
You just gotta stay on the horse. Stay on the wagon. The wagon, that's what they call it.
I'm certain horses pull wagons. And if you're drunk, you could fall off a horse as well.
You could. It's that would be bad. Probably about as bad as falling off a wagon. We have a brief moment of respite here.
Now he has come to some peace as he has stepped through and encountered the shadow directly, seeing the true self and that which lied within.
However, it is but a brief respite.
So you see they're bringing a little more light into this, but still keeping it relatively dark.
Yeah, so we will see eventually why they put so much emphasis on the light on the windows. In the meantime, though, Daniel does know about other secret passageways in the house.
Of course, as anyone who has read the extensive lore books that accompany this game would know. It describes them further there, though I must say it's a little bit poorly signposted in the game itself, especially with their trying to keep the atmosphere up. The lack of lighting makes it difficult.
Yeah, it keeps popping with this icon that keeps getting in my way, too.
Yeah, that's a pain. Maybe they could have removed that in alpha testing, but still, incredibly poignant, if nothing else.
And again, not great signposting here.
Well, it gave you an explicit hint there for that part. What else were you looking for?
It did give me an explicit hint. That was the final window on the ledge. So there weren't any other place to jump to.
I'm certain that that's the only part that they really had difficulty with the testers beginning with. Besides, if the signposting were too bad, it wouldn't have been the smash success it was all this time, would it?
Well, I feel that in some ways our journey is the same as Daniel's, where we are ourselves muddling around trying to understand what to do.
Attempting to overcome surpass.
What would they want with my journal?
And of course, Daniel can't live without his laudanum.
Well, who could at that time? Again, his addiction. Alas.
We're gonna use machine room key. We picked up a flow cycle rod. We're picking up a bunch of pieces that we need to build build some kind of machine here. We're gonna see more pieces of it as we keep going.
The question is what the machine means. What does it mean to Daniel?
Well, as you said, we've discarded things, we've torn ourselves apart, so now it's time for us to build something.
Of course, build ourselves a new, better life. Find ourselves at peace, but is a machine the way to do that? Though is the human mind and body not like a machine?
Are they not together like that? And now to recover the other parts, we must go down into the basement, or the recesses of the soul.
Oh, of course. Where earlier we had viewed the shadow, now is when we come to know it, the true self. And unlock his persona.
That's a strange way to phrase that, but I agree.
Yeah, it just felt right to say, I'm sorry. But really, aren't we all just needing to face that, figuring out who we are amongst the world of people, and what links we have to other socialities?
And now this is really where the platforming comes to the next level, and I gotta say, as much as there is in here, I gotta say, this really, I don't understand where the raves come from, because it's very sluggish. I guess they didn't want him to be able to run too quickly from any monsters that showed up. Because so far they haven't really posed any threat to us, but it does make it very difficult to navigate.
Of course, and especially in the continued atmospheric lighting. This one part where the reviews could have mentioned further the troubles with the game.
Yeah, and I mean, look at that. It's so hard to make that jump. But, you know...
As he falls down once again into the depths.
He ventures far too far. As have we. We will continue our adventure next time. Good night, Internet.
Good night.